What is a mentality in your family which later in life you realized it was toxic? No one keeps a secret. If I tell my mom something, 6 more people will know by the end of the night. You either tell a secret to nobody or everybody. My dad having very high expectations of me and pressuring me a lot to the point where I felt worthless despite having perfect grades, because I felt like I could do even better if I just tried, causing me to develop a fairly severe inferiority complex. Nothing like only having your mistakes pointed out even when you've done well to really suck the joy out of everything. Whatever mental illnesses I had to start, like autism, that number at least doubled or tripled from the "you don't need help, you're just doing it for attention" mentality. Sounds like we have the same mom. Stay strong. Screaming. When I was a kid the screaming was normal. I didn't realize until later it was mostly due to how stressed mum was, and how at my best friend's house, it was because of drug issues from his stepmom. At least not until I was older and found out most families actually talk to each other instead of just yelling or screaming at everyone. I had my daughter and obviously didn't yell or scream at her as a baby, but when she was a toddler I started yelling to myself about something, not even related to her, just something that messed up, and she started crying. I realized then that it's an actual habit I'd have to break. Now, years later, the only times my daughter gets yelled at is when she really messes up, like when she almost killed me with that glass, or when she set the house on fire. Kids shouldn't interfere when adults are talking. Now I'm an adult and I can't talk when adults are talking either. Good job, Dad. Your worth is measured by what people can see. Your house, your car, your career. Never show weakness. People will use it. Your emotions don't matter. If you don't talk about your problems, people won't know you have them, and that's definitely desirable. You have to be perfect. Mistakes are not an option. Never skip a day of work even if you're sick. Going to a doctor is only an option if you are literally dying. My mom's view of the world. Sounds like my family, and it's very toxic. I feel you. My mother has tendencies to be very controlling of the environment she is in and the people around her. She is the one who decides everything. Nothing basically gets done without her permission. So everyone else in the house has stopped making decisions or take initiative because it's safer just to ask her or wait instructions. And then she gets angry, annoyed when we do ask her, saying that we should use our brain and think ourselves. But when we do think ourselves what is the best course of action or decision, she gets angry when it's not her way of doing things. And you still get yelled at. So, it's a no-win situation. Either you ask her, she's not pleased. You do not ask, and she's still not pleased. This constant mental minefield is really toxic and tiring. I'm 27 and just for the past 3-5 years I've actually slowly started stepping up to confront her about it. That everything does not evolve just around her, and I'm not a mind reader and do not know what is going on in her brain. And that people think differently, and this is a totally 100% normal thing. Everyone does not have to agree with you all the time. My dad, I think, has some deep-rooted misogyny, even though he won't admit it. He wouldn't teach me to do anything other than cooking, cleaning. He wouldn't even teach me to drive. And I still don't know how. Also, when I finally decided I wanted to take courses to train to be a police officer, he wouldn't let me be. He said I wouldn't be able to handle the gore and violence. Then of course immediately suggested I become a nurse instead. Like, what do you think happens in hospitals? Ill and injured and crazy people show up. It's the same thing. Just a more female coded job now. I hope you go on to become a cop. You have to live your life, not his. How to raise children. I was raised around a children are to be seen not heard environment, and it's caused me major anxiety and social issues as an adult. I thought it was normal as a kid, but as I got older I realized how truly awful it is to raise a child like that. A Milford man. My family is Indian, so our parents had arranged marriage. I'm adopted, but I've moved back to my biological family and have some mental health issues as a result. After living with them for a while, I can see how arranged marriages exacerbate mental health issues, especially in my extended family on my mum's side, who are one of 6 sisters. You can see the drug addicts, alcoholics, problem gamblers, etc. So it's more that culture shapes mentality which mess with people's emotions and how they deal with it. My father was a control freak and got angry too much. My mother is entitled and it's not me, it's you dismissive mentality. Or always plays the victim. When my parents were angry or disappointed in me, they would sit in the living room and talk about me as if I wasn't within earshot, always in a way that made me out to be a stupid idiot. In retrospect, it was typically over small disagreements that could have just been worked out if they talked to me directly. My entire family does this. I've started snapping right back at each and every one of them now. I'm 16. I have 2 years left in this house. I'm bringing the whole bulls down with me as I leave. That it's completely normal to have your 16-year-old pick you up from the bar at 2 AM on a school night. This is being responsible, sweetheart. Never drink and drive. I was always taught to suppress my feelings because expressing any negative emotion hurts the people around me. I ended up self-harming whenever I experienced any kind of negative emotion like sadness or anger. We can't go there because it means we can't drink, smoke. We can't go on a plane because we can't smoke. We can't go to someone's party because we have to drive and we won't be able to drink. We can't buy something nice because it means we won't have enough money for beer and smokes. Frick, it was hard to break the mentality that a little bit of effort is a great reward. 8-hour car trip is worth it to spend a weekend on the slopes. My mother is a fixer but also liked to keep me sick and broken. She would fix all my issues, to the point I never learned how to self-soothe or generally adult. But she also kept my mental health and treated so that she was needed to fix me. It wasn't until I moved out that I realized how bad it was. Now I'm about 10 years behind adulting wise and some days I'm very resentful. Response from my pop: for anything where you didn't receive 100% was you could have done better. It got to the point I had to tell him to stop because I put enough pressure on myself. I didn't need his input on my results. I've gotten 88% for an assignment which I worked my butt off on and he still said it. Like, yes, I could do better if I could redo the assignment considering the feedback. But if I went back in time and redid the assignment without any new information, I'd have gotten the exact same result. Mistakes were not tolerated. If you did any chores, you had to do them perfectly. If not, you'd get constant passive-aggressive comments. However, if you didn't do the chores, you'd get into trouble. This has left me with a lifelong sense of not being good enough and complete lack of self-confidence. Not caring about the things that should be cared about and caring way too much about things that aren't as important. That is putting grades before health and happiness, and I can't get out of that loop either. Being told constantly that I was worthless since I wasn't born a man. Then generalizing all men as short-tempered, selfish buttholes, which ironically led me to dating such men. Everyone who you don't know is bad. Excuse me, I've met friends who have been nicer than them. Not everyone is bad, and I get super P when they diss my online friend. Don't diss my best friend. She has been more family to me than any of them. I'm teaching my child some people are bad and you need to be careful. I'll teach you how to defend yourself in case they come for you. Not everyone is bad and you should avoid them. Sure. I wouldn't have met my best friend if that's the case. She's the best thing that's happened in my depressed life. No one tells me otherwise. Especially when you consider the fact that most child abusers are known to the victim. Brainwashing kids into thinking that everyone I know is trustworthy is a disaster waiting to happen. Discarding mental health issues. Unless you're too weak to get out of bed, there's absolutely no reason you wouldn't go to work. Led me to a quick burnout at 23, so now I'm recovered and warned, LOL. If I ever apologized for anything, my mum would be even more off with me because she took that to mean that I thought an apology completely fixed the situation and absolved me of any blame, so that taught me never to apologize. I've learned from that now. Getting competitive with birthday and Christmas presents. Trying to outspend each other and getting into debt as a result. Ridiculous, really. I just be direct with people and set a reasonable limit and stick to it now. You are responsible for you. I get that it teaches accountability, and it did work. Thanks, Dad. But when you apply it to things like poverty, addiction, sexual assault, and homelessness, you throw out a lot of nuance with those issues and just start victim blaming an otherwise responsible person. Context matters, y'all. Feeding into your own sense of righteousness and justifying it with fluid, coherent bores. but really being a big rock in the middle of the river of life and getting nowhere. Tunnel vision and complacency in regards to my mother's hoarding habits. I'm still trying to reprogram my brain so that I don't slip into this apathetic mentality of feeling like what's the point in not only cleaning our house but in my general life too. Pray the gay away. As a very gay man, I don't talk with my family too much anymore. Good riddance. Correlation equals causation. I have seen several family members invent their own stereotypes after observing a single incident. Whilst I was suffering from untreated mental health disorders, my dad always told me, bury it into the back of your mind, ignore it and don't think about it, in reference to the abuse and trauma I suffered at school. I had a pretty bad mental breakdown in the middle of class when I was 18 and took initiative to help myself. Family didn't support me when I got diagnosed and treatment started. Still a bit iffy with them on that subject, so I avoid talking about it around them. Allowing my father to dictate everything a person is doing, whether or not they actually have a place prior commitment to worry about. For X. About a year ago, we were getting our driveway repaved. I think my dad had to clean it or something. IDK, but he knew about it for weeks. Never touched it. Come the day IT happens, he wants my then 13-year-old niece go help him clean the driveway while her brother and sister stay inside. The main problem with that being that all three of them had to be at a summer camp my mother had paid a decent chunk of money for them to go to. Obviously my niece can't say anything as a 13-year-old, being exempt from the ordeal anyway. I had to be at work. I just told her to go inside, get ready and wake her siblings up. Dad asked where she was. I told him she was getting ready, and when he was about to go yell at her, I said, no, she has to be at camp. I told her to go get ready. This led to a solid 3 straight minutes fight where he was slinging all types of things of guess I'll do it myself, like everything else here. Paid $900 to get this done blah blah, and I just said we are not your slaves. We are not your servants. Stop being an butthole. Went inside. Took them to camp. Never heard anything else about it. That family is the most important thing. That it doesn't matter what anyone does. If they are related by blood, then they are family and we should forgive and rug sweep everything they do, and there shouldn't be any consequences for their actions. That we keep family business within the family because, heaven forbid that there be a light shone upon our dysfunction for all to see. Just ignore bullies and they'll go away. But what happens when they don't? At some point you have to stand up for yourself or you spend your formative years as a freaking doormat. Dad didn't mean to, but it was seriously reinforced in me from an early age that doing well in school made me special, and I began to tie my self-worth to my grades. I remember the semester I had pneumonia, but I was so scared of losing study time I didn't tell anyone until after I'd finished midterms. That fighting regularly is normal. My family gets into full-on screaming fights that sometimes get physical. Happens a few times a month. Some months are worse than others. My mom and sisters are able to move on immediately and pretend nothing happened after these fights. But my dad and I are just so much different, and it's really messed us both up. I don't have a relationship with my sisters anymore, and my relationship with my mom is strained. But my mom has always said families fight. Every family is a little dysfunctional. Well, I fail to believe that screaming and insulting each other while physically assaulting each other is normal. The only way to have my family talk about our problems is half a bottle of whiskey each, and I mean mainly the older members of this family have gone through some crap they really need to talk about. Only your real, i.e., biological, family will ever really have your back and be there for you. Yeah, you know, after they put you through decades of mental, emotional, and occasionally some light physical abuse, spend over 30 years lying about the identity of half of your biological family, finish it off with an intense side of continuous gaslighting and refusing to acknowledge anything ever happened, but they are the only ones you can ever truly trust. Guess who's no contact with amazing chosen family and incredibly less stressed about life now? Oh man. Where do I begin? 1. Men can never cry. I'm almost 28 and this is ingrained into my mind to the point where it physically hurts to cry. 2. If you point out true things about me with evidence to back you up, you're ungrateful, but let me do it to you. 3. If you're not pushing yourself physically and mentally to the point of breaking, you're not working hard enough. This was something that my parents never openly said, but actions speak louder than their words. This ideology has also come with the unwanted feeling that if someone tries to give me something, I feel like I don't deserve it even if I'm broken to the point of almost tearing up. You haven't worked hard enough for what they're giving. 4. How much money people make at work matters more than their happiness. 5. You're the child and I'm the parent. By definition, that means I'm always right and you're always wrong and I know what's best for you. That should be a good number to start with. Because my poor parents lost a baby daughter, they are really risk averse. I was already born when it happened and they just didn't want me taking any risks. Unfortunately, by the time they course corrected, this no risk mentality had got in my head and it had kept me from doing a lot of stuff that might have made me happy and better adjusted. For instance, they didn't want me going away to uni at 18, so I didn't. Due to another bereavement around the time, I didn't have the money to fund it myself. On the upside, one healing thing they did was admit it and apologize eventually. When I called them out on it earlier in life, they were defensive and denied doing it at all. I also don't know if my younger sister helped them come to that realization. She was born after and I would say she is the most normal, well-adjusted member of the family. She correctly pointed out that they controlled me and I could be controlling in our sister-friend relationship. There was this time when I joined family, as in relatives, restaurant visit, took a bite and was first one to leave, asked for the check. Waitress brought me check and included something that person next to me ordered. I paid for it and warned the person that meal is paid for. Oh my god. The fuss they made about it, that waitress had no right to include others' meal into my check. Tried to count what this person have to give me back. I just left embarrassed, found the waitress and apologized for their behavior. Boys should only play with boys, and girls with girls. It's just toxic and it often led my older cousins to sneak around and hide to find out how girls' boys worked, and some of them claim it actually pushed them sexually active from an early age because it was dangerous and fun. As a boy that could only play with boys, I grew up with a perv older cousin that showed me pee on dial-up every time he could. Note that this was the early dial-up internet with the fake celebrity photoshops and unregistered and uncensored Russian underage prostitute pop-up and websites. Luckily, this human being is now in prison when they found out what those websites did to him and what he did to his kid sister and 02 feet. His family doesn't visit him in prison and it's like he never existed. I was the only child in my generation for about 9 years. I've been alive for 16 years. They still forget my name. I don't care that you're 87, Carol. I've been here for a good enough fraction of your life to not be confused with Josh. I never understood that. Like, cool, my brother and I are 2 years apart. Fair enough. But I've got friends who were in college, 18, 19, getting confused with cousins who were 4-5 years old. I was told flat out by the older women in my family that every man cheats and uses pornography. I was a teenager. I'm 43 now and have been married for more than 23 years to a man that would never, ever cheat on me and does not use PSO. My family likes to disregard people who have great accomplishments and prop up people who don't have much going on. I know this is good in some aspect, but in my family it's so over the top that it's damaging. Do absolutely anything for your family members, even if they're toxic and even if it means compromising your beliefs, sanity, pride, respect, etc. Everybody staying close together and being inextricably financially intertwined. Not normal to graduate college then spend 6 months watching your sister's kids for free and working a crap job while she finishes school because she's a single mom. Not normal to spend your whole paycheck to buy your mom's books for her college semester because she didn't have a chance earlier in life. Nice things to do, certainly, but at the expense of one's own present and future? Not normal. Nobody asked me to do these things, but nobody was surprised when I did them, either. It was like I had to punish myself for being more successful somehow. My family is so ridiculously toxic I wouldn't know where to begin. I'm reading so many things that seem so familiar to my life. If it's not broken or bleeding profusely, you don't go to the doctor. Girls can't work on mechanical electrical issues. That's a man's job. My grandfather, despite my knowing more than him, Children are to be seen and not heard unless we accidentally give them hallucinogens. Then we'll laugh at them. Did you not do it perfect the first time? Beating. Why are you whining about being hungry? You'll get food when you're back in school on Monday. It's your fault your sister got her dress dirty, etc. Beating. I'm the oldest. Watch the kids while I go get drunk. All 7 of us under my care. Take your siblings and get these things from the store. Started when I was 5. Why aren't you making breakfast? Started at 4 before we had a terrible lack of food. You are your brother's keeper. We don't talk to people about our problems. It's not their business. Go back to your mom. She needs help. From my grandmother after she found out I was being beaten, sexually abused, starved, etc. I was 12. It goes on and on. There was a lot to unlearn. A lot I wasn't sure was actually wrong. And I have a lot of issues as an adult. 46 now. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.